This is a podcast or something like that. On staubigem Kreton, sie war müde. Hey, how's it going? Just reading. I speak German fluently now. I wasn't even reading. I was just thinking out loud, actually. That's how fluently I speak German. Welcome back to the Verbal Journal podcast, episode 96. Yeah, I did just check, actually. This might be the first time I actually legitimately wasn't sure about what episode number it was, and it wasn't just an anxiety thing of feeling like I needed to check. Wow, that's pretty amazing. And it's because we have gone 3 weeks without an episode, skipping 2 weeks, technically then going 3 weeks, whereas you would normally go 1 week without an episode, or, almost a week, and then an episode would, about a week, right? Because, they don't get later each time, so sometimes it's less than a week. Okay. So I've been away, as the talent on this podcast, it's vacation was not something that I was normally privy to, is how they put it. They said, I said, hey, what's my vacation time sort of situation as a independent contractor here? And they're like, you don't get it, vacation time, as part of your contract, because your contract is independent of having vacation time on it, is what it means, they said. And I was like, okay, didn't think that's what it meant. But regardless of the contract, then what between you and me, or between me and you, I forget which way I said it. I was like, which way, how do I, when can I go on vacation? You know what I mean? Even if it's not in the contract, because whether it's not in the contract or not, I do need to eventually go on vacation, is what I said to them. And they were like, we understand that. And so after, I'm going to just fast forward the story because we're working on how we start the episodes, and I have more about that in a second, or in like a minute or two. But to sort of wrap that up and tie it up in a nice bow, because it is relevant, me going on this 2-week escapade, a jaunt through 4 cities in Europe, which we'll talk more about from a few different angles and what it means podcast-wise. I was able to wrangle this vacation time by basically saying, look, I'll go 2 years and then I get 2 weeks. We'll do a 2 for 2. I go 2 years, no vacation time, then I get 2 weeks vacation. They said, fine. Or actually, they said, let us think about it for a day. And then they took a month and a half, and then they said, fine. So that was awesome. I feel like it's not often in life that you get to really negotiate and feel a sense of power in what you're doing. And so that felt really good. So it's actually the 2-year anniversary of the podcast. Do we have that? Nope, we don't have that connected. It's just a window of me looking at nothing. See, that's because that's not a normal mistake that I would make, because I do have to do all these window things, even though I'm the talent. Normally, I wouldn't make that mistake because I would... but the computer restarted as we were starting this episode up, so everything got shuffled around, and that happens sometimes. But anyways, this is the first episode over 2 years ago, so now the podcast has been going for over 2 years, which is quite a milestone. The Verbal Journal podcast, first episode, obviously, it's called episode 2. That's for a variety of complicated reasons, but don't worry about it, you know what I mean? Because episode 2 with 22 views on January 22 is how we like it. So don't go listen to this episode because I don't want the numbers to get thrown off. And it has 2 likes. Good thing I liked it. So good for us, right? Let's hear it for a round of applause. I mean, really. The producer, Donna, is clapping, and they actually weren't here at all for first year and year plus. I mean, I want to say year and a half, but it was probably a year plus. So mostly me, but, Donna, you participated sort of to make sure, I know from a production standpoint, that things continued appropriately. Thank you, obviously, to our lovely writing staff, editing staff, marketing staff. Um, Fashion, I think he's still on the payroll, even though I'm doing what I want fashion wise now. We're just paying him to kind of not sue us for the way we not supposed to, right, that's part of the agreement. It's not a disclosure agreement, it's a non-disclosure agreement. Right. Okay. It took me a while to get that done. So 2 years of the podcast, I finally got to go on my trip. They finally let me do that. So I went to Europe. I went to a few places. But first, more importantly, I think more relevantly to the people watching. Oh, wow, the window's been like that the whole time? Holy. Is there anything we can do? No, that we're not going to. We could do something about that. Okay. More importantly for the viewership here and the listenership here, because I know there are people who don't watch the podcast, they just listen to it. I get a lot of messages about that. By the way, you can write into verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com. We actually had an issue where I don't want to check. Yeah, here. I don't want to check because hold on. Anyways, I think that's the email. Verbal journal. I can check. Okay. verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com. We get a lot of, that's what it is. Okay. I knew it. That one I knew. So, okay, here we go. More relevantly to you all, because you know me through the YouTube channel, most likely. There's no other way someone would find this podcast. Well, I did the Sam Cedar, Tim Pool debate thing. That one actually did sort of get people new viewers, but how many of them stuck around? I shouldn't have done an intro to that episode. I think I'm just talking about random shit, which is unlike me. No, that is the point of the verbal journal. Okay, so movies I saw on the plane, because you all watch me for my sharp media analysis. I stay in the know about media. I am the Library of Alexandria when it comes to media awareness. And that, we went through that on the previous episode when I believe it was on this episode when I went through the award show insights that I had.
I don't actually know anything about any of it. I have not seen any of these. September 5th is...
Yeah, so it turned out I had not seen any of the movies being nominated for whatever that recent awards show was, Golden Globes or something. So, I'm not necessarily, I don't know that much about media, but I saw some great movies because when you're on a plane, traveling, flew into Vienna, and so it's like I had a long time on the plane there. I watched every episode of this 2024 show about Kafka from Austria, and I watched it with English subtitles, and it was amazing. I thought it was going to be corny because I'm a huge fan of Kafka's writing. And let me pull up an image from it so you can sort of see, like I have with the others that we're going to talk about. So it was a great show, actually. They did an amazing job. They represented his life and then interwove it with his stories, renditions of his stories, like playing out, and they actually pulled it off and made it like not corny and made it really interesting. So they went deep and they were critical about sort of figures in the show or in his life, like Max Brod and other stuff. They were very insightful and good, and they represented his stories really well, and they inspired me a lot. And then I eventually went to Prague and, where he lived and sort of got to see, I didn't see his house or anything. His house is like an apartment building apparently. But they have a museum and they show you some of his like first, original documents, first publications. It was really cool to see. He called his first book of like short stories Contemplations, and in the show he was like represented being like, oh, it's such a bad title, I don't know why I'm doing it that way, but I'm gonna do it. And I don't know, it was just funny. Like, he's just a funny guy. So watched that on the way there. Then on the way back, watched Inside. So I don't know if you've seen this. This was great. When did this come out? 2007? No. What is... That's a different Inside movie. Willem Dafoe, 2023. Yeah. So it was fantastic. He's doing an art heist, and in the first scene gets trapped in the luxury apartment that he's doing an art heist in. And it was and then you're just watching him like be in there, and he's like an artist who's like just an adult, I guess, committing crime, and so he's like drawing, and like he's got a weird mind, and he knows the guy's not going to come back, like, because he's, you know, planned this art heist. So he's like in this luxury apartment, trapped. The water doesn't work, all the systems are broken and stuff, but he's like kind of living it up while he's like potentially dying. And it's a great movie, and you see what happens. And then I watched a movie, The Adult. Sorry, I got a pixelated image here, but that's Michael Cera with two other actors. They all seemed very good. I didn't know these people. I'm sorry if that's offensive. I can't even read their name because it's so pixelated. But they were great. I just was not in the mood for something raw, sensitive, and true, or poignant, or quietly moving. So it came on, and like I gave it like 20 minutes, and it was a mixture of like cringe vibe. There was a scene they're in the diner making a joke. They made a joke about how this old lady working at the diner like had really nice legs, and then he like took it too far, and like it was just like, I'm not interested in watching this right now. I think it's good, and it has the same symbol right there that the other one did. That's kind of interesting. 73. There's some sort of film festival they might have. Anyways, I stopped watching this after 20 minutes. I was not interested in watching something like that. Instead, I watched Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping, the Lonely Island movie from like 15 years ago, and it was so good. It's a parody of a biopic of a musician, a pop musician. And it's great. I mean, if you saw Walk Hard, which is a parody of a rock Johnny Cash biopic specifically, that was fantastic with John C. Reilly. And then this just was amazing. Andy Samberg is so funny. And I mean, it reminded me of Parks and Rec in a way, like where at the end it has a really predictable, like positive conclusion. But I'm going to be honest, like, this is just how I work. I'm very easily manipulated in this specific way. Like, when I'm laughing and a movie or show makes me laugh a lot, it opens me up to then crying. So I wasn't like bawling my eyes out, but I definitely had tears come up at the really predictable, like he gets back together with his friends and they just like because it's so self-aware. So I don't know, like it helps me be vulnerable in a certain way, I think. Cause you know, I don't know. Like, compare that to then I watched The Lobster. Like, I would never cry watching this, even though it's way more sad and fucked up. Like, I mean, obviously, it's just a different type of crying, I guess. So, yeah, this was great. I saw it for the second time. It's great that John C. Reilly is in this after I just mentioned him. And he, really shouldn't make the poster. But this is a great poster, so I can't complain. I mean, he's a very... I don't know. I guess you do want to have... Because otherwise it's just Colin Farrell on the poster. I mean, she doesn't even come into it really until... Well, I guess she's narrating the whole thing. Also, there's something I don't know about this movie, and I've seen it twice, and I need to look it up right now. Because if you've seen this... So it's the story of a world where it is illegal to be single. And if you are caught without a partner, you are sent to a hotel. Well, it's a hotel where you have like 50 days or something to partner up with someone, or else you get turned into an animal and killed, essentially. I mean, I guess you're not killed, actually. You're not killed. You're turned into an animal. And that's just normal, and it's sort of just played as if it's normal. You have like these, you see later in the film, like these like basically like ICE agents like going to people and like in a mall and being like, hey, where are your papers? Show me your marriage certificate. Like it's kind of crazy, and it's really good. A great film, and very serious and very dark. And then there's this sort of narrative about like, what does it mean to fall in love? How do we fall in love? He sort of has these like, well, the movie starts and his wife is him and his wife are separating, or his wife's leaving him, she cheated on him, or whatever happened. It seems like she cheated on him, and then maybe like the implication is that's just they must break up or whatever. They're breaking up, and he immediately, when she cheats on him, asks what type of did the guy have glasses or contacts, because he immediately assumes the guy is nearsighted, like he is, because he has this understanding of like you fall in love when you have similar flaws, basically. And it's, you know, an interesting, really interesting concept to explore in the film. And yeah, I mean, it had been someone who was nearsighted, so he was right about that. And then in the end, he like gets with like this woman who is also nearsighted, and it's like, but this is all, I'm making it sound a little bit simpler than it is. It's played out in a very complicated way. I'm just extracting sort of and then it ends, and you get to see like, does he take that sort of belief to its extreme? The idea that people who are in love need to have a similar sort of flaw or weakness. Does he choose to, or does he not choose to? But there is a scene that the film opens with where someone is just driving down the road, gets out of their car, and shoots a cow and kills a freaking, or it's like a donkey. I forget what animal, a mule. And then gets back in their car. And I think I understand what it means, but I'm not 100% sure. I think it means they are in this world, and they know that one of those cows is possibly like their ex or something, right? Who got turned into a cow. Because you do find people are able to somewhat track where someone might have ended up. Like this one guy tells a story at the hotel about knowing that his mom was turned into a wolf and given to a zoo, going to that zoo when he was older, or going to the zoo a lot and then going to it once, and getting in the wolf exhibit and being attacked by all the wolves but two. And so he says to a room full of people, so I assume that my mom was one of those two. So it's this really dark, funny movie. That's him. He does a great job. Okay, they all deserve to be on the poster. This is a fantastic poster. Really beautiful art. So well laid out, whoever did this. Wow, the lapels. It should be, wow, called the lapels instead of the lobster. What was I going to say? So the opening scene, I just want to look that up, okay? Opening scene, because I've never known. You can't tell who that woman is. I can't tell who the woman is who gets out of the car and shoots a cow. I don't think she is in the film, and that's crazy. For a film to just start with an opening scene that's a random person who never comes back. Okay, opening scene in The Lobster. Why did she kill the donkey? Okay, let's pull that up. In the opening scene of The Lobster, in an interview, the film's director, Yorgos Lanthimos, indicated that it was supposed to be intentionally enigmatic. Okay. He said, I've had people sending me emails trying to decode that. It's like, the director said, I like starting a film like that. You set the tone, but you don't explain or go back to it. When the film finishes, the viewer can return to the beginning if they want to. Yeah, okay. So I think I'm right. Right. So yeah, that's great. You sort of at first are just like, okay, that's weird. I'm sure that'll be explained. And then when it's not, you can sort of think like, oh, wait a second. Was she killing her ex in the form of a donkey? And then I watched Nope for the second time, which is a great film. And I mean, it's just unbelievably good. I don't watch like horror films. And for me, even Get Out and Us was pretty much a horror film, but Get Out too. But like they're just like artistic in ways that I don't normally feel horror films are, and that says someone who doesn't watch them. So I'm not even like, I've just look. I don't want to be scared. I'm not ever seeking that experience. That's not something I want. So I've never been drawn to horror films. I have no interest in being scared. This is more like perplexing and like yeah, you know. I'll see some, movies. What's that one where they like alien visits and it's like circular time, alien visit, circular time movie. Come on, AI. Arrival. Thanks, Google. Arrival. Yeah, that's not a horror film. I'm just saying, like, I'll watch like scary. What's that one where the Annihilation? Anyways, so Nope. A great movie. What did I want to say about it? I don't know. I mean, it has, it sort of starts with it, but it has its own enigmatic scene of the monkey killing people. Wow. Whoa, I didn't realize I went from a movie where a person kills an animal and it does happen multiple times actually in The Lobster. A woman kills a dog. It's very disturbing. Film's super messed up. Definitely messed up in ways that Nope is not. And I actually, when I was in a social work master's program, we were chatting about movies, and I recommended The Lobster to someone, and I might have even told this story before, but the person came back like a week later and was legitimately mad at me for recommending it. I've never had that happen before, but like they were actually like how could you recommend that to me? I was like, I'm sorry, it was a messed up movie, but I didn't. No one got like I didn't what it's not like it's a movie like anyway. So Nope is yeah, I mean it's yeah, I don't know what to say. It's just amazing, and I love the interplay of the enigmatic scene with the monkey on the TV set, on the TV show, and how that plays in to the film's like overall themes of like some aspects of nature being like untamable, and like the consequences for humanity when we try to control the uncontrollable. Very interesting. Let me close some windows here. Let's do an old window closing. So great start to the episode. Now that I'm done, exhibiting my media chops, like, come on, that analysis of Nope, where I basically said nothing about it. That's you're not going to get that anywhere else. I hope. But now I'm going to show you some of the images, because Nope is also about images and how they're represented. This is one image I saw on my Euro trip. I got to see in person these Jean Baptiste Arcimboldo. What's his first name? Arcimboldo. First name Giuseppe Arcimboldo. 1560s painted these paintings that are, you may have seen similar ones before. I got to see this in person at the Kunsthistorisches Museum in Vienna, and they had 4 of these, and it was unbelievably cool to see in person. Was just so cool. The fact that someone did something like this in 1560s, like no one did this. Just so interesting. And I mean, obviously incredibly well painted. I mean, how do I get this to go away? Why is it doing that? Okay, next up in this slideshow, embed codes. Next up in this slideshow, oh, I got another. Okay, I brought another. I really wish that image would go away. Why is it doing that? You know what I mean? That's such a weird, like, you're hosting my image. Like, why are you tainting it in such an unfathomable way? Open link. Okay, well, I'll just do this. So this is another, it's just unbelievable that he painted this in 1560s. This looks like something someone would do today as like a, reimagining. Like he did this in 1560s. Oh my God, just so cool. Like, so they're each different. There's no repetition. They're each different sea creatures. Wow. Okay. Now it's obviously going to be inconvenient to, okay, here we go. This was so I went to a Marc Chagall exhibit at the Albertina in Vienna. And it was amazing. It was, usually you see a couple Marc Chagalls at a museum. So this exhibit in Vienna had 50, 60 Marc Chagall paintings. And it was really, it was really cool because normally you don't get to see that much variation. I find him very inspiring. He's a very unique. I feel like part of art is about just doing something unique that only you could do. Because I feel like that's the thing to do, because that's what art can do that other things can't do always as well. I don't know. So like a lot of tasks in life don't give you that amount of agency and flexibility where you're ending up doing something that only you could do. So art is kind of cool for that. And I feel like Marc Chagall sort of expresses a unique vision very well. And this whole trip inspired me to like want to do more realistic painting, not like realistic, but like representational. So yeah, I just like, and anyways, this was the one painting you were not supposed to photograph. I only did it after, I did it as an artistic, thing. So it's okay. But I only did it after I saw other people doing it, is what I'm trying to say. I only did this to document the paint. Should I actually not show it? Does it actually feel weird to show it now? Because as I was talking, I was like, I really do think it was fine that I photographed it, but I am now showing it on YouTube. So I'm gonna blur out this image. Let's get our editor, Monica. Can you make sure to blur out this image? Blur out Chagall. Your job depends on it. Okay. So we will blur that out. So this whole time you will have me talking about a blurred image, and now it will be explained. I'm not gonna show it because I do think it was okay to photograph as a document for myself. I just thought it was interesting. The reason that they didn't allow you to photograph this one was it's a painting of a specific opera house or like music hall for rich people, owned by rich people, of course. And look, he did it for them of their music hall, and it hangs at their music hall normally. And so when they loaned it out to an exhibit, they're like, don't even photograph it because it's out of its element and it's not for you to photograph, which I do respect. So I'm going to blur it and not display it. But I wanted to take a picture just for like to document it's not even about the painting, you know what I mean? It's about the limitation on viewing. So that is what my photograph is of. So I'm now representing that faithfully to you by blurring it out. Next up we have, I don't need the embed codes. Thank you very much. Next up we have these guys. These fellas were walking down the street in Prague as if it's normal. You know what I mean? And I was around the corner. Up here is like the palace complex, the Lobkowitz Palace, and the other palaces are up here, which have some art and just a bunch of palace stuff. And then these guys, I think they were the same guys. They were like sort of playing a little song, or I don't know. There was like a little song and dance going on up by the palace gate, which had confused me. And at this point, I was like sort of slightly lost, not really, but I was like, because I had my phone, but I had like walked the wrong way because they were blocking the way I was supposed to go because it just was a performance, and I didn't realize. And I also didn't know where I was supposed to go because it was confusing on Google Maps. These streets are so thin, and like there are so many weird walls, and like you're just like, where am I? You can tell why like Kafka felt the way he did. No, I'm just kidding. He lived other places too. But anyways, these fellas were walking down marching. I don't know what they're waiting for, but it's not a good look. So they are canceled. This was cool. This was in Prague at a convent. What was her name? Something with an E. Abbey Convent, Prague. Convent of St. Agnes. Yeah, that was it. This was just one of the works. It had all these medieval artworks that were interesting to look at. Honestly, it's from 1400s, 1500s. From Bohemia, from the area, for these specific churches or things. This one in particular I thought was cool because you could see the backside of it on this glass, and the backside of it had this like paint, and I was like, damn, that looks like an abstract painting, and it was just on the backside of that. It was just kind of interesting. Next up, these were two of my favorite paintings I saw and they were at the Kunsthaus in Zurich. This is by Eva Tanguy, and this is by Max Ernst. And this one I have looked at so many times in books, and to see it in person was absolutely insane. I like paced over to it when I realized it was on the wall. And then Eva Tanguy is like one of my favorite artists ever. So to see one of his and this very good, because sometimes you go to a museum, they have a Max Ernst, and it's like just some weird Max Ernst, and you're like, okay, yeah. But this is like one of his amazing ones. And there's just all these great parts of it. So you could like here, you zoom in on it, see that little guy, there's like that little guy that you can look at. You know what I mean? There's like all these cool. It's called the whole city, die ganze Stadt. And the other cool thing about the Kunsthaus, he must have been speaking French at the time more so. They changed the label order of the languages based on how they actually named it, which I didn't see at any other museums. Like the first title was how the artist actually named it, La Villa Entiere, the whole entire village, die ganze, and then they listed the other languages. Other museums would just list like their local language first. Yeah, Demine, also spoke French. But yeah, I did see at the Kunsthaus they were changing it up based on how the artist actually spoke, which is a very obvious, seems kind of obvious, but good thing to do. Okay, I'm like having a hard time here with this format. Okay, and the last one is this Oscar Kokoschka painting, which is amazing. I'm just like trying to look at it. You know what I mean? This is from 1943. It's called Why We Fight. This was also from the Kunsthaus, I believe. But I saw another amazing. I saw a bunch of Kokoschkas, and I saw another amazing one that's political. He was labeled degenerate by the Nazis and had to flee. If he wasn't Jewish, he was definitely like politically someone that they would not be tolerant of. And this is this is a classic sort of political allegory painting he did, and I love the cramped composition, the vibrant color. Obviously you see some familiar figures. I'm not going to try to explain the whole image, but I would like read some of it, not there, but everything's like there for a reason, and yeah, it's just really beautiful. I like the way he lays it out. Okay, so that was my Eurotrip images. We gotta blur that too. I'm writing that down too, because that's the type of thing that slips through. No offense. But writing that down too, because that, we need to make sure that Marc Chagall's family do not sue the Verbal Journal podcast, because we do not have that sort of capacity to take on that sort of flagrant challenge. So we're trying to do better with a lot of things here on the podcast. One of the things we're trying to do better is not starting the episode doing follow-ups on the previous episode. So I think we did a great job here with that. But we do obviously need to do some follow-ups. At 27:50 in this previous episode, I said something
in the poster. That's weird. I have not seen any of these either.
Not that.
This looks like the album cover to the Panda Bear album.
So I said the Panda Bear album, but I was actually talking about the Eric Copeland album that has a Panda Bear version of an Eric Copeland song. And doesn't that kind of look like it, right? You know what I mean? Isn't that crazy? So that's just kind of interesting. And we're going to have more about the subject of plagiarism in a second. But this is just, is that flagrant plagiarism? Only murders in the building? Only murders in the building. 2021. That's 2021. Okay. And the Eric Copeland album is 2015. Holy wow. So that's kind of interesting. Anyways, at just more follow-ups. I also hear say something.
Okay. I believe, right? Really done that, frankly. I think he was just saying, hypothetically, we could do that. Magnus doesn't really seem like he would want to do that. This was New Year's Eve, okay? I believe, right? This was New Year's Eve.
Oh, yeah, I'm talking about them agreeing to a shared first place at the World Blitz Championship. So they are now 2 World Blitz champions in the open section, which is just funny.
And they were like, it was like 9 p.m. in New York City, or something. It was like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. They were like...
Yeah, it does say 7 p.m. on the screen, so it can't be, later than that in the time of their, you know what I mean? If that's when the tweet was posted. So that was just something I definitely wanted to follow up on. Sorry about... I don't have to apologize for these. I'm just following up. 59, and by the way, I'm sitting normally in this episode. Going on the trip, I still have a pinched nerve, but it's given me a lot more confidence just sitting and standing and just like knowing that, it's going to take a while, but, it doesn't hurt me that much to do a little sitting. So I'm feeling a lot more confident with that. Okay, let's see. Another thing. Oh, we're going to follow up on this. I don't think...
26 detainees remained at the facility, of whom 14 are eligible for transfer. Wonder how many have been convicted of a crime.
Okay, I wonder how many people at Guantanamo have been convicted of a crime. Okay, so we have an article from 2024 about Guantanamo. Since 2002, roughly 780 detainees have been held at the American military prison at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Now 26 remain. Of those, 9 have been charged with war crimes in the military commission system. 7 have yet to be put on trial, so they have not been convicted of a crime. And 2 have been convicted. You would think they could get someone on trial, you know what I mean? Like if they wanted to. 2 have been convicted of a crime out of the 26 people at Guantanamo Bay as of the end of this past year, as of a month ago. 3 detainees are held in indefinite law of war detention. That sounds like it should be illegal. Sometimes laws should be illegal. I believe in the rule of law. I don't always believe in every law. I believe in the rule of law, which are the guidelines and principles of how law should be created. For example, law should be legible and readable, publicly available, not retroactive and retrospective. There's a few other principles I forget. I took a philosophy of law class, so I'm an expert. In addition, 3 detainees are held in indefinite law of war detention and are neither facing tribunal charges nor being recommended for release, so they don't even have charges. Can you imagine that? 14 are held in law of war detention but have been recommended for transfer with security arrangements to another country. Yeah, transfer them out of your custody when they haven't been convicted of a crime, actually. Obviously, this happens a lot to American citizens as well. It's, not how law should function. You don't hold people indefinitely without convicting them of a crime. You know what I mean? Anyways, we have, so let's start so there's been, a new thing on the podcast sort of where it's called the midsection, and it's relatively new, where it's not the main section and it's not the intro, and it's sort of in the middle, and so it's the midsection. And so that's it has some segments that you are familiar with. It has some rotating segments. It has some spots for, segment just new things. So, back to the Guantanamo docket. We didn't have it ready. That would have been the time to have it ready. So next up we have we'll call it a huge plagiarism controversy. Huge plagiarism controversy. This film, when I said more about plagiarism later, this 2013 film, Gore Vidal, The United States of Amnesia, based on a book from 2004 called Imperial America, Reflections on the United States of Amnesia. It's from 2004. So we have a 2013 movie, The United States of Amnesia, based on a 2004 book, The United States of Amnesia. Well, y'all, here is a 1985 song, The United States of Amnesia, by Robert Wyatt, which is an amazing song. It's very, very good. I love Robert Wyatt. Actually, reading his biography is what inspired me to start reading a bunch of biographies, which I've been doing for a year and a half. So that's been really great. He's just an amazing guy. So I'm sorry, Robert, that they pinched your United States of Amnesia thing, but we love you and we know you. No credit given in the front matter. I did look at the front matter. Next up we have the Grinds My Gears segment. So this is the segment where I talk about things that grind my gears. And I do have a lot to talk about because it's been a few weeks. So I've had a lot of time for my gears to get ground. And I have a lot to talk about on this segment. So first up, what really grinds my gears? People who don't put their devices in airplane mode when they're on an airplane. You know what I mean? I know that a lot of people are not putting their devices in airplane mode, and it's absolutely pathetic, and people should be ashamed of themselves. You are being directly told to put your devices in airplane mode. If you're consciously not putting your devices in airplane mode, I want you to know that when the plane crashes and it's a result of your device not being in airplane mode, I'm going to know. I'm going to survive the plane crash. I'm going to go through everyone's devices. I'm going to get a federal injunction to go through everyone's devices. This will be what I'm thinking about. And I will make sure that I find who was and was not on airplane mode because that is recorded. There is a online database called airplanemode.com where you can look up anyone's phone and whether or not it's on airplane mode at any given time. So people who don't put their devices in airplane mode can absolutely go to hell. It's just the audacity. Am I overdoing it? Okay. I don't really agree with this one, so I just decided I'd kind of overdo it. But I'll tell you what I do agree with. When the seatbelt sign is on, like I understand if you're having like an emergency or like you need to like whatever. But like the number of people who get up when the like a minute after the pilot is like, hey, we're going to be going through a bumpy area. I'm putting the seatbelt sign on. Like, please stay seated. And then, like, over the course of the next 5 minutes, like, 4 different people get up to sequentially go to the bathroom. It's like, that one actually does annoy me because it's like, but I guess I get very, because I guess I talk about plane crashes, so it's obvious. I get a little bit nervous on planes, and like I just want everyone to stay seated and like sit down and shut up. I was on one plane where like 2 people started like bickering at each other. Like the guy didn't like that the woman had like gotten this other guy to move so she could lie down on this plane that had some empty seats, and so he kind of like woke her up at one point, and then she was like, "What the fuck?" And I was like, "What?" And then they were like bickering, and like she was like trying to piss him off back. It was like I was like, "Can you guys?" I'm not even joking about that. I was like, "Please." I was so annoyed. That's worse than the airplane mode thing, even. Okay, next up on the Grinds My Gears segment, when you try to sneeze and you like and you like fail to sneeze, you know what I mean? And you're in public. That's the worst. Cuz then people are like, "Does that motherfucker not even know how to sneeze?" And I'm like, "No, I know how to sneeze. It's just that one wasn't meant to be." You know what I mean? Okay, we should talk about some more serious stuff. We joke around a lot here, but I think we should talk about more. There is a lot of serious stuff going on. This sounds like I'm going to set up a joke, and I'm not. I'm telling you right now, I'm not setting up a joke. There might be more goofs later. Okay, we might have a few more ha-has for all you people, but no, we will have a few more ha-has. I'm just looking at the script right now while I'm reading it. It's kind of something I've gotten good at. But I do want to talk about the fires in Los Angeles because that was something that actually started since my previous episode here. Even though it's, we're used to like constantly changing news cycles. It is still going on. And it's now several weeks going. It's still not fully contained. I think most of the evacuation orders have been lifted, but probably not all of them. And I mean, it's just so much damage, tens of thousands of I think it's probably, we'll look at the numbers in a second, but I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. There's some other big news that I'm going to cover because I didn't, I do like to talk about the news here. I'm feeling like I'm getting better at consuming the news, and there's a lot of it with the new presidency in the U.S. Like, there's just a lot of flurry of news. So I will just read a bunch of articles really quickly, or sort of maybe skim a bunch of, I'll go to every day I'll go to Reuters once or twice. I like Reuters. And I'll just look for articles, click open 5 or 10, run them through an archive so I can read them past a paywall. And then, read them over the course of the day. But it's like, there's a lot to stay up with, but if you sort of skim it, you can kind of get the gist sometimes, Okay, so just this story's from a few days ago. About the winds picking up this past week. There's a few different fires going on. This one was a lot about the Hughes fire. There's also Palisades and Eaton fires, which have created enormous amounts of damage. Article from just yesterday is about how rain can spread toxic substances related to the fires. So it's hazardous chemicals are created from burning homes and cars. And there's asbestos as part of that. Actually, part of the Kafka show was apparently he had to take partial ownership of a asbestos factory because his brother-in-law started one and needed, he had to, for complicated reasons, he needed someone else, and so Kafka did it as a stand-in for his dad and had to take on that annoying responsibility. And it was asbestos. But anyways, the fires began on January 7th, which is 2 weeks, over 2 weeks ago. killed 28 people, damaged or destroyed nearly 16,000 structures. So the rain will help with the firefighting, but it will these toxins go into the gutters, storm drains, eventually our beaches. Yeah, got to invest a lot of money in being ready for these things. You really can't probably be totally ready for them. Nothing containing the ash. Some positives. We will try to look at positives for things in general. That's something we have to do on the podcast a bit better. People getting to return to places they evacuated. But the risk of toxins is so hard to measure and prepare for too. Like, it's not like you can easily just prevent yourself from experiencing all these, toxins. People are having to just constantly be covered up, and you can't let the outside air into your residence. So that's really serious. But we will try to look at some good news. We will, because I can't leave you all feeling bad. So one good thing that this fella did before he finally left office was he banned certain areas from offshore drilling, 625 million acres. Unfortunately, this guy who took the other guy's office said he was going to restore drilling there. But it's not so simple, so I don't know exactly how it's going to go because the Lands Act, which allows presidents to withdraw areas from mineral leasing and drilling, does not grant them the legal authority to overturn prior bans, according to a 2019 court ruling that came in response to Trump's efforts to reverse Arctic and Atlantic Ocean withdrawals made by Obama. But then there's no expiration, so we'll see how that goes. I mean, already in the first week of the Trump presidency, or the first week. I mean, you see, he's just gonna do things. A judge has already ruled the birthright citizenship thing illegal. Like, judges are just gonna have to rule things illegal, and it's not gonna always happen. But yeah, he says he's gonna do this, so he's gonna push every boundary possible. More good news though. Regulators reverse course on pipeline near Pipestone Monument after native pushback. So there's been a lot of protesting around this area, and then finally near the Pipestone National Monument, and finally the Minnesota regulators rescinded a previously approved permit to try to reactivate a pipeline through an area. With a lot of Native American groups. Native people from across North America have quarried pipestone, also known as catlinite, for thousands of years. Thousands of years, that's pretty good. We usually get reach the limits much quicker. Pipestone National Monument was created in 1937 and allows Native Americans to harvest a soft red stone used to make ceremonial pipes. Site is used for ritual ceremonies. I don't think the general public understands the sacredness. In September 2024, they approved a route. What is the PUC? Governor-appointed board that oversees energy regulation approved a route that would take a 13-mile right-angle detour around the monument and ordered Magellan to complete cultural and archaeological surveys. The commission subsequently received letters from 16 tribal governments expressing opposition to the decision and urging them to reconsider. Yeah, it was not a good enough situation. And then they rescinded the permit. So they have to do a survey. Okay, that's a nice win. Next up on the good news desk, Costco Teamsters good news segment. We are not part of the desks right now. Sorry. That was a huge mistake. This is not part of the desks section. This is just the mid section. So this is not a desk, it's a segment. So I'm sorry for saying that. This is the good news segment. It says that right in my script, I swear. Um, Costco Teamsters vote to authorize U.S.-wide strike. Teamsters said a week ago its members at the this is a week-old article. You know what I mean? Like Costco strike. We have to look up a current article. Let's see. News. We have a Fortune article. Yeah, there's Costco members rallying outside of corporate headquarters. Um, and they might go on strike by the end of the month. And then article from 2 days ago, saying Costco workers, 18,000 Costco workers threatened to strike and won't work a day past Jan 31 if their contract demands aren't met. They're asking for. The union claims in a statement that the wholesaler and membership store has failed to present a fair contract offer despite record-breaking profits. Prior to the vote, which 85% of members supported, that's a huge percent, workers organized practice pickets across the country, including actions last week in Hayward, California, Sumner, Washington, Long Island, New York. While Costco is known for paying its employees higher wages than its competitors, the union is accusing the company of not sharing its recent success with workers. Yeah, that's believable. Costco claims to treat workers better than the competition, but it's failing to live up to that. Reported net sales in December up 10% from the year before. That's wild. Teamsters have shown themselves willing to take on the biggest retailers. At the peak of the holiday season, the union authorized a strike of Amazon that lasted until December 24. Workers formed picket lines at hundreds of fulfillment centers but went on strike at just 9 locations. While Amazon doesn't usually acknowledge the union, the Teamsters claim to represent nearly 10,000 workers at the e-commerce giant. So you would think that it's not the greatest article. It's sort of like a little bit, but anyways, that's good. Final week of negotiations begin on January 2020. So we will learn more about that soon. More good news. Giuliani gets to keep property, agrees not to defame Georgia election workers. That's very kind of him. He agreed not to defame 2 Georgia election workers he falsely accused of helping steal the 2020 election as part of a legal settlement on Thursday that lets him keep his Florida condo and Manhattan apartment. And they were compensated, but they decided after a $148 million judgment, they were compensated, you bet. But they decided to let him keep his homes. He did not admit liability or wrongdoing. Did not mention compensation. Did not respond to comment. Because when someone doesn't admit wrongdoing but pays money, they are literally paying money to not admit wrongdoing. Kind of, you just like have to question the whole not admitting wrongdoing thing because they're buying that rather than, because when people didn't do something wrong, they can just say that. They don't need to pay any money to say that. Settlement means Giuliani, 80, will no longer face a trial to determine whether he must turn over the Palm Beach condominium and 3 New York Yankees World Series baseball rings. He already turned over an apartment to help them pay off the judgment. We got some great art being produced from this whole situation. So that's good news. Next up, we got, it's sort of similar to the good news desk in the sense that we're trying to bring a positive light to something. The chief executive desk. So we're going to have a chief executive officer desk. Because I feel like CEOs, and I shouldn't even say CEO, that's why we call it chief executive officer desk. CEO is kind of a derogatory term, I think, for them. And you see people using that sort of, I don't want to call it a slur, but it's a shorthand sort of like derogatory phrase. So, but chief executive officers have been getting a lot of flack lately. It's probably a poor choice of words. They've been feeling the sort of difficult times recently. I think, chief executive officers, because they've been feeling like people want them to die. And that's not easy for someone to experience. And so I wanted to bring some positivity to the whole chief executive officer conversation. Goldman Sachs boosts CEO pay to $39 million, lines up 5 more years at helm. So here's some good news in the chief executive officer world. Goldman Sachs raised CEO David Solomon's compensation 26%. But I think most of us got a 26% pay increase year over year, right? When you compare what you're getting paid right now in 2025 to this same time, 2024, you're making about 26% more, correct? The insurance companies bump it like $5 maybe, if you're lucky. Not even usually, in terms of what they pay you for an hour of therapy. And I'm sure your boss gives you maybe 5%. So 26% for David Solomon, CEO, Chief Executive Officer of Goldman Sachs. So 26% pay increase. And its board lined up an $80 million stock retention bonus that signals he will stay at the helm for another 5 years. So it signals that. CEO succession. Wow, even Reuters is using it. Is in focus across Wall Street. From Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan Chase to Brian Moynihan at Bank of America, investors are focused on the long tenures of executives running the largest U.S. banks. The Goldman bonuses are an effort by its board to retain the chief executive officer and chief operating officer as a senior leadership team, the company said in the filing. Solomon's compensation rose from $31 million in 2023. His 2024 compensation included a $2 million base salary and an $8.3 million in cash bonus and the remainder in stock and a new type of incentive reward. Under Solomon, Goldman decided to shrink the consumer business that he once championed. Its retail operations lost billions of dollars and prompted the bank to sell assets and take write-downs. The Wall Street powerhouse has since shifted its focus back to traditional mainstays of investment banking and trading, while also pushing growth areas of asset and wealth management. That benefits everyone, right? So next up on the chief executive segment, head of Libya's National Oil Corporation resigned. So you got a mixed bag here for chief executives. And that's one of the main things I want you to take away from this segment today. Every chief executive officer is different. You know what I mean? Everyone is different. You can't paint with a broad brush. So some are getting 26% pay increases year over year, and some are getting let go or resigning. The head of Libya's National Oil Corporation, Farhat Bengdara, has resigned due to health issues. Oh, this isn't. I mean, I don't want to. This is. We're trying to be positive here about the. The NOC runs the technical sector of oil and gas production along with a number of smaller subsidiaries in OPEC member Libya, which is the third largest oil producer in North Africa since the fall of Gaddafi and a NATO-backed uprising in 2011. You could say coup. Libya's oil production has been repeatedly hit by groups blocking facilities, sometimes to demand material benefits, but also a tactic to achieve wider political ends. That's interesting strategy. Oil prices fell on Thursday with Yemen's Houthi militia expected to halt attacks on ships in the Red Sea, and investors weighed strong U.S. retail data. So different type of chief executive, and lastly, exclusive: China to cut pay by half for staff at top financial regulators. Is this about even the chief executive? China is set to slash pay for staff at its top 3 financial regulators, including the central bank, by about half as part of a regulatory revamp. How do you cut someone's pay by half? To bring their salaries in line with other civil servants. Oh, damn. Okay, never mind. Wow, their pay was double that of other civil servants because they work at the central bank. So starting this month, staff at the People's Bank of China, National Financial Regulatory Administration, and China Securities Regulation Commission will see total income slashed by about half, said 4 sources. The sources who have knowledge of the matter declined to be identified. The hefty pay cuts would come against the backdrops of China's current focus on boosting consumption, including spending by millions of civil servants as part of its effort to maintain a stable growth rate. It's so weird the way economies work. Wow. Two years later, after a regulatory revamp that was aimed at consolidating power and oversight at the top of government, none of the 3 regulators disclosed their exact official headcount. That's so interesting. Okay. Well, let's see more about that consumption thing. The pay cuts at the regulators would bridge the gap within state agencies. For example, a CSRC department head earns about 40 to 55K a year, almost double what civil servants at other state institutions get. While all department heads at the 3 financial regulators will see their pay slashed by about half, officials below their rank will see a 40% cut. Wow. Could you imagine if you got a 40% cut in your pay? Like, that's kind of a lot. I mean, even if they're getting that much, like, they're not like millionaires. Okay. Well, anyways, this isn't about chief executives, so it's not even supposed to be here. Next segment we have is the Everyone Makes Mistakes segment. So this is a segment where we highlight the fact that everyone makes mistakes. Because it is true when you think about it. Everyone does make mistakes. And so, that's just something I wanted to highlight. And this midsection, I think we're doing better. Oh, I forgot to say, no, never mind. Yeah, no, never mind. Fine, I'll say it. I forgot to say that talking about the LA fires was the main segment of the midsection. So there's a main segment there's a main section of the podcast, but that was the main segment of the midsection. So not the main section, but the main segment of the midsection was talking about the LA fires. Because I think that deserves it. So we will have a main segment of the midsection as well as a main section in general. Just wanted you to know that. But let's get back to the Everyone Makes Mistakes segment. Major League Soccer apologized a couple weeks ago after saying that the Celtics Japanese forward Kyogo Furuhashi had signed for Atlanta United when in fact it was his compatriot Keiman Tagashi who had joined the U.S. club. So, however, the MLS side, who had teased a new Japanese signing earlier in the week, announced it was former Japan under-23 forward Tagashi, who had arrived on a free transfer through the 2025 campaign. They said in a statement, Major League Soccer's website mistakenly posted an article that named the wrong player as having signed with an MLS club. The article was immediately removed. Extended sincere apologies. I wonder if they're like, yeah, we admit that was racist. You know what I mean? That would be awesome if the MLS just came out and was like, look, we got to be honest, that was kind of racist. Like, we obviously have racial biases that were at play there. Okay, and next up on the Everyone Makes Mistakes segment, there was a issue with this guy's Rockets. But look, just because he's the world's richest man does not mean he knows a lot about rockets. People need to give him a little bit of time to figure this stuff out. SpaceX's explosive Starship rocket test that sent debris streaking over the northern Caribbean and forced airlines to divert dozens of flights. There's a multi-agency investigation that is ongoing. According to the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands Police Force. They created almost like a small earthquake. The Starship rocket that exploded had multiple new onboard features flying for the first time and carried its first batch of mock satellites that were meant to be deployed into space. Maybe just rockets should be something just governments do. You know what I mean? Like, that have maybe more protections than like a private enterprise. I don't know. That might be kind of a crazy idea though. Let's close some windows. How about it? Everyone loves when we close windows because it's kind of a time to remember what we talked about. You know what I mean? Kind of review, and we're done. Okay. So next up we have, so that was everyone makes mistakes, and I want you to think about that. Next time you make a mistake, think about that. Even the world's richest person can make a mistake, and you know, and so on. And even the Major League Soccer Association. So main section of the podcast. So that's the midsection is over. We're on the main section now. The concept of a security dilemma is something I heard about recently. I forget exactly how. In international relations, the security dilemma, also referred to as a spiral model, is when the increase in one state's security, such as increasing its military strength, leads other states to fear for their own security because they do not know if the security increasing state intends to use its growing military for offensive purposes. So, yeah, the fact that someone will... And I think I read about it in a political context, but it made me think of like interpersonal psychological stuff where it's like if you have two people and someone gets more defensive because they think they have to, but then their defensiveness is read as aggression from the other person who then becomes defensive. And then you have people responding to each other's defense mechanisms as if the defense mechanisms are offense mechanisms. So it's just interesting that that happens in international relations, and they call it the security dilemma. And that's the main section. See, the main section is not necessarily very long. You know, I don't think it's important that the main section is very long. So what do we have now? Now we have, I think it's probably about time to move on to the desk section, frankly. I know that might be a wild idea. We've been having a lot of issues with the desk section. That's part of the reason that there's been this increased investment and development in the research and development front in the midsection. A big part of that has been that it's found to be a potential successor to the desk section if anything does ultimately happen with the desk section, and it becomes not sort of viable as a thing. So I am sort of confused right now because I'm trying to open up Windows to talk about. The problem in the desk section is it was becoming all about politics. So I decided, well, why do we even have the desk section if it's all about politics? It's just a politics segment. So now we are doing the politics. Well, I'll keep the desk idea in it. It's the politics desk segment. And it'll just be sort of, you know, a good time where we just kind of vibe and talk politics. There's a lot of serious stuff here, though, so a lot of it actually won't be super vibey, in the sense that, like, you know, a lot of I've noticed a lot of very serious stuff going on. I don't know about you, but it seems like when I'm looking at the situation of politics in the world, I'm like, that's kind of serious. But we will make sure we stay on top of it all here with the politics segment. The politics desk segment. Okay, so this is from 21 days ago. Can we get a more recent article on the ethics czar? I mean, you know what I mean? Do we have maybe a newer article? No. Okay. So new ethics czar starts vetting incoming Trump officials. So top U.S. ethics official charged with, this almost seems like a what's the word? Oxymoron. Charged with preventing government workers' conflict of interest is about to take the hot seat in Washington as president-elect's new cabinet and other appointees declare their financial assets and prepare for the new jobs. Ethics experts say the director of OGE is in the spotlight during any presidential transition, but David Hatima, faces special challenges ahead of Trump's second term, evaluating a myriad of business ties for Trump, his family, and advisors. Experts pointed to the short, rocky tenure of the last person to hold the job when Trump took the office, and that several of Trump's latest nominees have expressed disdain for the agencies they will run. That's how they like it. They are trying to make the state fully subsidiary to private industry rather than just a midwife of it. If he does his job well, chances are good Hatima could be fired fairly promptly, Schaub warned in an open letter. Okay, so that we're not going to read the whole article. Obviously, we have a lot to do, but politics segment begun. So we also had Washington Post cartoonist quit after sketch of Bezos bowing to Trump. I would show the sketch, but it would be a bit too much like the art desk, so we're just going to move right on. But that was a Pulitzer Prize winning cartoonist, first time having one of their comics getting pulled, deciding to leave the Washington Post. Because and they've worked there since 2008. And they had a cartoon killed because they showed Bezos and other tech executives. Oh, wait, this is not the art desk. You know what I mean? Politics desk segment. This is so tragic that this stuff is going on, but I feel like I have to talk about it. Migrants set fire to own camp during midnight police raid in North Mexico. So migrants trying to avoid arrest set fire to blankets and mattresses at a camp in the northern Mexican city of Chihuahua. I'm sorry, I actually don't know how to pronounce it. During a raid, I know it's a very important city for immigration. During a raid by government forces to clear the site in the early hours of Saturday. The enforcement action near the U.S. border comes just ahead of the inauguration on Monday of Trump, who's accused Mexico's government of not doing enough to curb migration to the U.S. and threatened sweeping tariffs. This has escalated even more since then. They tried to fly planes to Mexico yesterday, the day before, I think on Friday, with migrants. And they did it to Guatemala, and they dropped a few planes of people off in Guatemala. And then they tried to drop a few planes of I don't know if they're illegal. I don't know if they're undocumented or what the actual status of them is, but they tried to drop them off in Mexico, and Mexico rejected them. I think they tried to drop they weren't even Mexican citizens, because in Mexico's statement they were like, we always would accept Mexican citizens. So the U.S. is just trying to drop off people in other countries using military planes, which is highly unusual. Anyways, so this is a couple of weeks before, and this is Mexican officials, including National Guard, military police, and anti-riot gear, surrounding the encampment at around midnight. According to a Reuters witness, migrants began setting fire to mattresses and blankets in protest and tried to slip out of the site carrying babies and belongings. So horrifying. Oh my gosh. The goal of the operation was to bring the migrants to Mexico's southern border, where they would be told to return to their home countries. Wow. Many among the 150 migrants were Venezuelan families who had stopped at the camp in Chihuahua City, around 220 miles from the border of Ciudad Juarez, across from El Paso, Texas, as they headed north to the U.S. It's just like, oh my gosh, it's so horrifying. Just let people set up a life wherever they need to. There's plenty of money in the banana stand, you know? Next up on politics desk segment, American Airlines focus on equity, environmental, social, and corporate governance in retirement plan is illegal, U.S. judge rules. This is so fascinating. You got to pay attention to this stuff sometimes because it lets you see how making money is the law. A federal judge in Texas on Friday said American Airlines violated federal law by basing investment decisions for its employee retirement plan on environmental, social, and other non-financial factors. So this is This is not about who they hire. This is not about how their training is. This is about what they invest in. So a judge ruled that American Airlines was breaking the law. It owes it to its retired employees to be willing to invest in anything that will make the biggest profit, regardless of environmental, social, and other non-financial factors. They, by law, must only look at financial factors, and when they're making these decisions. The judge said American Airlines breached its legal duty to make investment decisions based solely on the financial interests of 401k plan beneficiaries by allowing BlackRock, notorious hippies about money, to focus on environmental, social, and corporate governance. BlackRock wasn't focused enough on making money. On behalf of more than 100,000 participants in the retirement plan, maybe the problem is actually a little bit like maybe it's not about the companies they're invested in. Maybe it's just about the amount they're paying out. Like if they paid out their retirees, the retirees wouldn't care what they were investing in. Maybe some of that money could come from somewhere else in the business, like revenue. They were sued by 11 Republican states who claimed the firms violated federal antitrust law through climate activism that reduced coal production and caused energy costs to increase. Wow. BlackRock called the claims baseless. Wow. Someone tried to say they couldn't even show that the plan underperformed. The judge says, no, they can show it. The judge is known for frequently ruling in favor of conservative litigants challenging laws and regulations governing guns, LGBTQ rights, and healthcare. Ooh. Okay, so this is an activist judge. Wow. The Biden administration in 2023 adopted a rule allowing 401k and other plans to consider ESG factors as a tiebreaker, meaning if everything else is the same, meaning don't worry about the environment more than money, but just consider the environment when you're done considering money. Judge doesn't even want them to be allowed to consider that. Oh my God. So the ceasefire finally happened. The ceasefire finally happened. I mean, nearly 40,000 children orphaned by the war. So many people have been killed. There are all these reports that the established number around 50,000 is like nowhere near the actual amount of Palestinian people that have been murdered by Israel. It's just unfathomable that the world is standing by and watching thousands and thousands of people get murdered. I mean, people get murdered in other countries too on this massive scale, but like this is the eradication of a people. This is getting rid of a people and killing an entire people. And that's why people call it genocide. I mean, how do you not call it a genocide? This is a genocide. They're killing all the people in this one area who are of a particular background so that they can clear that area and live there themselves. And it's being supported by the US, Germany, other huge countries like. And then they're stealing Palestinian tax income to pay electric. I mean, the Israel plans to use tax revenue it collects on behalf of the Palestinian Authority to pay the Palestinian authorities debt. To pay themselves, they're using tax revenue that they collect from the people that they have been murdering and oppressing for many decades. And anyways, lastly on the politics desk segment, like fucking insecure Andy over here got rid of a portrait of a freaking general who was critical of him, which I think is a good transition into the art. So we separated politics from art officially. I was trying to keep them both in the desk section and keep them separated, and I know that was never really gonna work. So we separated them out. So now we move on to the art segment. And the art segment is a totally different segment. Let me close some windows to really identify just how separate these things are. Art segment, nothing to do with politics. We were just looking at art in a separate thing. It's not even part of the desks. It's not a desk. It's now just a segment. The skull of a person long thought to be Cleopatra's half-sister was misidentified for nearly a century. I hate when that happens. New research from Nature Scientific Report concludes, raising intriguing questions about the identity of its long-dead teenage owner. Buried in a sarcophagus in the Octagon, which is thought to be a royal burial chamber and shares architectural features with buildings in Alexandria. This is in Ephesus, Turkey. This is a view of the Octagon along Quercetus Street. Sorry, is that the Octagon? Or is that the Octagon? Sorry, I feel like I should know that. Using modern DNA analysis, researchers found that the cranium and its accompanying skeleton are actually those of an 11 to 14-year-old boy with recent ancestors in the Italian peninsula or Sardinia, not a 20-year-old woman or a member of the Macedonian Greek Ptolemaic dynasty. The skull also challenged assumptions that the person was healthy, with an underdeveloped upper jaw and asymmetrical shape, suggesting he had a vitamin deficiency or genetic disorder. So, not the healthiest person who's ever been a dead body. But that's fine. We love our malnourished skeletons. Next up on the art segment, ancient petroglyph. Can we have different types of art? This is different. I'm sorry. Ancient petroglyph irreparably damaged in Mexico. I feel like the image would be nice to have. You know what I mean? Oh, okay. Here we go. Someone attempted to dislodge a drawing of a hand from a rock with more than 150 motifs dating back thousands of years. So they added a little addition to it. An ancient petroglyph has been forcibly removed in the Mexican state of Coahuila. Sorry, I don't know. I should look up how to pronounce this. Drawing of a hand dated back between 500 and 5,000 years ago. That's a pretty big difference. On a large rock surface. Accumulated drawings over thousands of years. Well, then why is this not an addition to it in 2025? You know what I mean? They're adding like a geometrical aspect to it. I don't know. I mean, I don't condone this. This is an irreparable loss. But, you know, it's better than... I went to some of these museums and they had paintings under glass and you couldn't even really see the painting because the light would reflect off the glass. And it's like, okay, well, your painting is safe, but no one can really enjoy it. So, unfortunately, it's just risky. Exhibiting art is risky, you know, somewhat like life in itself. And I'm pretty sure, you know, this is just part of the artistic process. So... and lastly, on the art segment, Sotheby's made $6 billion in 2024, but sales dropped for the second consecutive year. So their sales fell by 23%. Wow, get that CEO a pay hike. Sales at Sotheby's dropped 23% in 2024 after a turbulent year for one of the largest art sellers in the world on a challenging global market. Auction sales fell 28%. Fine art sales fell 31%. Luxury dropped only a little. 85%. So that's a lot of data, right? You know what I'm saying? We're going to get him back one day, right? We'll talk about it later. Okay. 85% sell-through rate, but they manipulate that by taking things off the auction block if it's not going to sell and stuff, to try to pretend that they have high demand. I think, allegedly. I think I read that. A rare point of growth was their private sales division. Okay. Basquiat, Giacometti, Monet, Picasso, Warhol. You know, all the super weird, toxic men in their own ways. Really, I mean, really. Whoa. In 2024, Sotheby's introduced a new buyer's fee structure that it went on to reverse 10 months later after the offerings proved less attractive to potential sellers. And their core earnings had fallen by a staggering 88% during the first half of the year. Wow. Oh, and this was a cited document. According to a report from the Financial Times, which cited a document sent to investors shortly before the announcement that Abu Dhabi's sovereign wealth fund had taken a $1 billion stake in the auction house. So their core earnings fall 88% for first half of the year over year. I think that's what that means, right? And then so their core income goes down 88%, and then Abu Dhabi's sovereign wealth fund takes a $1 billion stake. So that's just art. This is just classic art stuff. You know what I mean? If you like art, this is interesting to you. So come on. If you haven't shopped at Sotheby's lately, hit them up. Check out what they have going on. See if anything's for you. Stop not going to Sotheby's. Okay? All right, so we are basically ready to get out of here. I do want to read the emails because I'm sure we have a ton of emails after taking a few weeks off. It actually might take up another hour or two of the episode. This might be an even longer episode than it already is because of all the people who wrote into verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com. No one wrote in. That's fine. So instead, I will read a comment on the YouTube channel. Someone commented on the last episode saying, I love these so much. Can't wait to get on Patreon to watch more. So speaking of Patreon, let me thank the Patreon patrons. So these are people who give their hard-earned money to me to spend on whatever I want. They don't follow up and say, what did you spend the money on? They just let me spend it on whatever I want. And I love that. So let me start with Patreon. So thank you, Luna, Alexis, Jackson, B, A, JC, Kristen, Lily, Icelac, MT Foxtrot, Caleb, Emily, Miranda, Ruben, Ibnomad, Oliver, MK, Matt, Scott, X, Noah, Anastasios, Linguist, Sam, King, Tom, Stephanie, Verbal Gerbil, Hugh, Redgrove, Elemency, Platinum, Sarge, Rabid Dog, Jen, Ian, Russ, Irene, MJ, Got45er, Swit, Ryan, Madeline, John, Mr. Moxie, Brent, Kyle, Ashley, Jack, Scott, Luca, Gunther, and Thulu, Source, Rex, and Miles and User. Thank you so much, y'all, for the money. I need it to live, apparently. And thank you to the people who on YouTube, we got some new members, YouTube members to the What's Therapy page, transfers over to the Verbal Journal podcast through a coordination commission. Thank you, Ramon, Loplian, Jacob, Jeebus the Great, Matthew, Eva, Maddie, Ibnomad, Jasmine, Simply Snaps, Jifa, Jaden, Trusty Ghost, Hollow Moon, Pit Inhabitant, and 39% Weird. Thank you, y'all, for supporting the thing that this is. That's your prerogative to do, and you have the right to do it, and I support that. We'll be back next week, most definitely, to continue on the journey that is the VJP. Good day to you, and good night to you as well. Thank you.
This is a podcast